This next story is just a self-parody of the highest order. A pro-life group called Children of God for Life. The names are always so funny. Children of God for Life and American Freedom and Happiness. You always have to make it as flowery sounding as possible so that people go, how could you be against that, bro? They're for children. Do you hate children? Do you hate... They're for life. Do you hate life? You're fucking crazy. I'm with these guys over here. So this group is trying to stop the government from fast-tracking approval of 2 potential Ebola vaccines. Now, stop and think, why on earth would a pro-life group be against an Ebola vaccine? See, Ebola kills people, right? And you like life. It's in the title. So why would you not be in favor of anything to combat Ebola? I mean, you're kind of de facto siding with Ebola here, aren't you? So how does this work? Why are you taking this position? Well, it turns out that the vaccines with the most promise and the ones that people are trying to fast track here and do more study and get it out there on the market ASAP as long as it's safe, right? Those vaccines use stem cells. Oh. See, that's the thing. My God, we can't have that. We would rather you use the less efficient vaccines with less promise that have a much higher chance of not working because embryos deserve Second Amendment rights. That's their argument. Their argument is, no, go with the stuff that's probably not going to work because that one doesn't use stem cells. So, but the one that probably will work with stem cells, you can't use that because they're people, even though they're stem cells. So, more people might die from Ebola because these jackasses are trying to block the process of getting the vaccine with the most promise to be studied faster and released faster. How insane are these people? They're not pro-life. In this case, they're very clearly pro-death. The pro-life position is, yes, fast-track the fuck out of those vaccines. What are you, crazy? We're talking about actual people here. They're letting us know. They're not hiding it anymore. They're saying, we are more in favor of embryos and gametes and zygotes and stem cells than we are for actual people, for actual human beings. Look, I've gone over this before, man, but let me bring it up again because to me, I think this is really important. I always try to stress that on the issue of abortion, the answer is the moderate answer. The answer is where the overwhelming majority of the American people are, where they say, look, we're not in favor of having abortions up until 2 seconds before the fetus becomes a baby, right when birth is occurring. No, we're not in favor of that because that's silly. That's extreme in one direction. The extreme in the other direction is also stupid. The idea that the second you're done having sex, that's a human being. If it's a gamete, might as well be a 42-year-old dude named Bob Johnson. No, both of those extremes are silly, so the reality is somewhere in the middle. Rational people understand there's somewhere you draw a line where you say, okay, after this line, now it became a bigger moral question and ethical question. I always say, to me, the answer is viability and when the fetus develops a nervous system, because once the nervous system is developed, pain exists, so they can feel pain. Before there's pain, it's a much less difficult moral question because there's no pain. Okay, and if we're talking about early abortions, again, you're talking about gametes and zygotes and embryos and pre-gestation fetuses. That's a fundamentally different thing from a human being. There's a reason why we have different terms for those things versus a human being. They're fundamentally different things. Okay, so the answer is somewhere in the middle. I get it. Up until about 22 weeks or so, all the woman's choice, 100%, government shouldn't get involved at all. After that, I understand you can say only in cases of rape, incest, life of the mother, and fatal fetal defect. But again, the answer is logic. The answer is reason, drawing a line where it makes sense. And we can have a discussion about it. We can have a conversation about it. But when jackasses come along and they say, no, we're against possible Ebola Ebola vaccines because of our ideology that an embryo or a stem cell is equal to a 38-year-old man or woman, I'm not talking to you. I'm not going to sit here and have a conversation with you because you're a child. You are doctrinaire. You are an ideologue. You don't value reason. You don't value empirical reality. What you value is sticking to your guns and sticking to your position despite nuance and complexity. When you say, I'd rather not use a stem cell for research than help somebody who is sick and has Ebola and they're suffering and they're actually a human being and they're actually alive, you're a child. We just did a story the other day where because of stem cells, researchers have cured type 1 diabetes. Okay, now you might say, Kyle, you're overstating it. Kyle, that's not exactly how it went down. Okay, don't believe me. Look it up yourself. We just did the story the other day. The link is in the video description box if you go back and watch that story, and then you could read the article yourself. The researchers are saying this is a breakthrough akin to penicillin for infections. That's what this is. That's what this is. And we only were able to do that because we did stem cell research. It has so much promise, and it can cure actual problems that actual people face. But for some ridiculous hypothetical idea of what you made up a human being to be, you're going to stop that research? That's as cold-hearted and callous and anti-life as you can possibly get.